So welcome to the guided drop-in meditation. I'm Marvin G. Belzer from the UCLA Mindful Awareness Research Center. And this is an opportunity at noon for the next 6 weeks to learn the basics of mindfulness and how we apply mindfulness both in meditation and in daily life. So we're off to a bit of a late start, but the truth is we don't need to rush. These 15 minutes that we have can be really important. So I'll talk for a couple minutes and then we'll get into the meditation. So mindfulness is a capacity that we all have. We don't have to struggle to create something new. It's the ability to be aware of what's happening in our experience as it happens. Just the awareness of sounds, sensations in our bodies, the thoughts we have, the emotions and so forth. And it turns out, even though it is a capacity that we have, it's also a capacity that can be refined and deepened, developed. And this is where both the science comes in, just looking at what happens when people do take time to develop mindfulness. And what the emerging science shows is that indeed we can learn how to be calmer, how to have more freedom in our response to difficult emotions, and there are good physical and mental effects. So I won't go into the science further here, but there is information available. When we do a meditation, we do two things. The first is we focus our attention on something relatively simple, something actually happening, and we just let our attention rest there. And I'll guide you in this when we begin. We'll use ambient sounds. We'll use sensations in our bodies, the feel of the breath. This mental activity is something we definitely can do, and it has very interesting and good effects. It's a way of cultivating more calmness, clarity, stability of mind, and so forth. We don't have to clear our minds first. We don't have to rearrange anything. Just in the midst of what's actually happening, we have this capacity to place our attention, and we can do it well enough to get good effects, even if our minds are racing, and even if there is a sense of uncertainty, chaos, anxiety, and so forth. Secondly, indeed, our attention will drift. No matter how hard we try to keep the attention, say, focused on the breath, there will be those moments when we notice that we've been drawn into planning the afternoon, some sort of problem we're working on, even a random memory, and so forth. And in those moments in mindfulness practice, we take an interest in what's happening. Just that gentle recognition. I'm thinking, I'm planning, I'm worried, I'm anxious. We include the feel of the emotions. And over these weeks, we will give a little more detail around how we work with difficult emotions, how we work with difficult sensations, and so forth. So that's an overview. Let's dive into a meditation. We'll take about 10 minutes for this one, and then I'll wrap up with a few comments at the end. It's plenty of time. We don't have to rush at any point. Eyes can be open or closed. You might take a few deeper breaths. Just one way to begin, slightly deeper in breath and out breath. So we'll come back to the breath in a minute. For now, just notice the sounds you can hear. So right in the midst of everything else that may be happening for you, just turn your attention to this part of your experience, what you can hear. Of course, I don't know what you're hearing in your environment. It doesn't matter what the sounds are. We're just turning our attention to this part of our experience in the midst of everything else that may be happening right now. And it can be helpful to notice how easy this is. We don't have to censor any sounds. We don't have to keep track of everything. We don't have to try to hear everything. It's a mental activity, this focusing attention And with sounds, it's very expansive, right? We're just turning our attention to this part of our experience, the sensations of sounds. If you're new to meditation and this seems like it should be harder, no, this is it. It's directing attention to something actually happening in our experience. And it's this mental activity that is a catalyst for more calmness, clarity, and so forth. So we can use sounds. It's also good to use sensations in our bodies. So when you wish, letting your attention settle into your body, and just notice what you can feel first, quite generally. So we're shifting our attention from the ambient sounds into what we can feel in our bodies. Again, not needing to stop other things. So there may be sounds still pulling at our attention, even as we focus now on our bodies, head, shoulders, arms, hands, torso, legs, feet. Yeah, just what can you feel in your body right now? Maybe it's quite obvious, maybe not so obvious, all right. Some degree of vibration, pressure, softness, the feel of your legs or back against a chair or cushion, whatever. And then as we feel into our bodies, it can be quite natural to notice the feel of the breath. So just the normal breath. We began with some deeper breaths. Now we're just letting the breath take place, so we're not constructing it. But there are sensations typically in the abdomen, in the chest, at the opening of the nose. The invitation here is just to direct your attention, focus your attention somewhere, abdomen, chest, or nose, where you can notice, oh, the in-breath is beginning based on those sensations. And then let your attention rest there. Just knowing when the in-breath begins, slight rising, tensing, begins in the abdomen and chest. Sort of falling, softening, dissolving as the out-breath begins and unfolds. It's a flow of fine sensations at the nose. So we're not trying to get something out of the sensations. It's this mental activity of focusing on something relatively simple, actually happening. It's not make-believe. And we definitely don't have to try to make ourselves calm. This is very interesting how this works. It actually happens naturally when we give it some time. And then, of course, keeping in mind that try as we might, there will be moments when our attention drifts, where we realize we're daydreaming, we're planning. And in mindfulness practice, we include just that recognition, thinking, planning, whatever it is, often emotion, uncertainty, grief, joy. It's kind of a very open space, a lot of permission here, just to notice, not try to fix, and then gently come back to the breath. So we'll take 3 more minutes for the meditation, and I'll be silent this time, and then ring a bell simply to end the meditation, and then we'll talk for a few minutes.
Great, great.
So let's take another minute for the meditation. Even noticing one breath is not a small thing. And so this type of activity is taking place in the present. So in a way, it doesn't matter what's happened so far. So we don't need to evaluate or judge that much. Those are thoughts that are natural and can be helpful at times, but in this context, basically just a good opportunity to notice our minds thinking and reconnect with the breath, even now, this breath. Some sensations are available. Is it the in-breath happening, the out-breath? So thank you. It's good to practice with you. It can be surprising to people how simple and doable mindfulness meditation is. Many people have misconceptions about what meditation means. One of the biggest is that somehow we need to be able to clear our minds in order to do it properly. This is simply false. Even in the midst of plenty of thoughts and so forth, we can exercise this capacity to direct our attention, and we can do it well enough to get good effects, even if it doesn't seem like it's being done well enough, because our minds can be flittering from one thing to another quite naturally and indeed intelligently. You know, it's part of our intelligence as human beings to be able to keep track of what needs to be paid attention to, and indeed to worry and so forth. And so quite naturally, we'll notice our attention has moved away. And so in those moments, we simply include the awareness of what's happening. We have time for a question. What if it's really hard because we're trying to change unpleasant physical or emotional sensations? So the answer there is, and we'll explore this in further sessions at noon, but the core of it is, in mindfulness practice, even if our motivation is to manage physical pain or difficult emotions better, it never involves trying to change them. So we can hope for change. We can hope to manage pain or difficult emotions better, but we never, as part of this practice, even nudge. We will nudge because that's our tendency, but where we make the effort is simply focusing attention on something relatively neutral like the breath or the sounds. So when we notice that we're freaked out, uncertain, and of course it's very common given the way our lives are now, to be confronting emotions, some of them perhaps very unfamiliar and in any case difficult. So one option is simply to turn the attention away. Just notice the sounds, notice sensations in your body. It's always skillful. And then when we do pay attention to the emotions, it's in this very kind of spacious way, just taking an interest, noticing what the sensation is, how does it feel, whether it's physical pain or the sensations that are a part of difficult emotions like fear, anxiety, grief, and so forth. So again, apologies for the late start today. As a professor, I used to be a philosophy professor. The joke is that I teach better the less time I have. So we definitely covered the basics. And if you're new to this, you can practice on your own. We have a free app through the Mindful Awareness Research Center at UCLA called UCLA Mindful. And there are some guided meditations there. And we'll be doing these at noon on Wednesdays over the next few weeks. There are some good questions. If we have a couple more minutes, I'll stay here. There's a question about ADD type qualities. Listen, this is a great question. There's plenty of research that needs to be done, but our experience so far is that even when we have, attention deficit in some form or other, or we feel that we do, or just our minds are racing, there's still some capacity to decide where to place our attention. And we can do it well enough. So we can let go of this image of having to do it perfectly. We'll be back. My colleague Diana Winston and I will be sharing these sessions, and we can follow up on these. So feel free to check out our app if you want to try it every day, and we'll be back in touch next week. Thank you.